Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Blogging Warfare. Today we are introducing our newest panelist. We are going to throw him right into the center of the ring first off the bat, just like Rob and Wade and I all had before. And so we're going to put him front and center, and he's someone that I think everyone's going to be really excited to hear from, because he has really just kind of taken Google Plus by storm in the last few months, and he's got a long blogging experience in a range of different areas, so really looking forward to hearing from him. But first I'm going to pop over to Spain there and say hello to our other co-host, Robert Ryan. How are you, Rob?
I'm very good, and as always, I'm happy to be here with our ever-expanding global audience, Carolyn. Not only that, I'm particularly happy to be here with the newly recruited to the Blogging Warfare team, Hanna from Blog Photo TV. As we said in the little introduction, you've probably seen this guy somewhere on Google Plus, because his strategy, whatever he's doing, whatever he has been doing, the secret sauce is working. So what we're going to try to do is delve into his little formula and recipe so we can help our ever-expanding global audience when they are trying to strategize and philosophize and take over Google Plus, because we know he's a man who can help you all out there. So Thomas, show us your mug.
My mug?
Yeah.
This is my epic. I actually collect mugs. This is my favorite mug, though. This is it looks like a carved. I don't know if you can see it if I'm up in that window, but this is the carved Tree of Life mug from Disney. And this is why I like it. Look at how big this is, right there. I can almost swim in it. So this fuels my caffeine addiction. Yes. I love it.
I bet that's a part of what keeps you fueled and going on social media.
This is my blogging strategy.
I love it. That's fun. Well, dive in. Tell us how you got started in the wonderful world of blogging.
All right. Well, I've been blogging since I think 2010. And initially, it's funny. My initial forays into blogging were very, very temporary. I would find something that I thought was interesting, and I'd post a couple of articles about it, and then never go back to it again until I started with ofdustandkings.com, and that site is no longer around. But it was funny because I had a friend of mine who I trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with, who was a blogger on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and her and I would have great conversations, and she, for about a year, was on my case to try to get me to start blogging. And so I started with Of Dust and Kings, which is actually a theology blog. My background is in theology. That's what I did my graduate work in. So that's what I blogged about, and that began to really take off after about a year of doing it. So the very beginning, I started trying to do all the things that I was kind of reading about doing, and I got nothing. It wasn't until I began really connecting with people and focusing not on broadcasting my content, and instead was focused on building relationships with people, that it began to turn. And at that point, it began to take off. And so by late 2013, it had taken off enough that I was actually Church Relevance magazine, because this was a ministry and theology blog. Church Relevance magazine identified that site among the top 150 most read ministry blogs in the world. And it was about a month later. This is like so awful. It was a month later that Google, that was in September of 2013, October of 2013, Google released their Penguin update. And because I had started with that blog back when I didn't know anything I was doing, it was just simply reading what people do to gain traffic, part of my early attempts dealt with like link building and some of that stuff, which never worked for me. But when that last Penguin update was released, it went back and found all of those from a year and a half prior, and overnight, like half of my search traffic just died. And I wound up having to relaunch that at tehanna.com. And what led to Blog Photo TV was that as that relaunched and began rebuilding its presence, I began getting emails from other bloggers, both within the Christian niche but also outside of that, asking me for advice on how to blog. And it started happening often enough that I decided to put together a resource for people where they could be able to get the tools, the techniques, and the resources that they need to be able to develop a site that actually is able to stand out online. And that's become the mission of blogphoto.tv, is to help people to stand out online. So there's my history.
But now that you're rebuilding and rebranding and getting Blog Photo TV up and running, how big of an element would you say is Google Plus to your overall strategy? Because how would you compare your activity on Google Plus, say, to other networks? Would you be more active on Google Plus? Is it your main hub for social?
Google Plus is my primary, and there's one thing. When people try to get engaged with social media, a lot of times they try to go as wide as possible. And the reason they do that is because they focus on, they view social media as sort of like an advertising channel. And so if we want to get as many advertising channels as possible so that we can push our content to as many places as possible, and then there's no traction anywhere. Instead, if we focus on social media being an avenue to build relationships with other people, then we focus in on one primary one and really focus on going deep and building those relationships, and that's what I did with Google+. So my first 2 to 3 months, I had a Pinterest account simply because Pinterest correlates really well with Google+ in terms of the way that you can overlap those two. But pretty much my entire emphasis on building relationships and establishing a web presence in the beginning was focused exclusively on Google+. And once I began establishing those relationships, the beautiful thing about relationships is when you actually have relationships, they cross platforms. So people that I've built relationships with on Google+ are also active on Twitter. So when now I'm expanding into Twitter, and I start off by connecting with those people that I already have relationships with that I built here. So they begin to flow into each other. But yeah, really focusing on one at the beginning is critical. And for me, that was Google+, and that proved to be very, very effective for me.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think that's been true for a number of people, and there's certainly been a lot of conversation around Google+ about the importance of focusing on relationship quality and just really on making it a genuine connection. And I think, you know, that's something that you can theoretically do it on any social network, right? It's not actually a Google Plus exclusive thing. You could build relationships on Twitter, you could build relationships on Facebook, but why did you make the strategic choice for Google Plus over somewhere else? Is it like the long form content opportunities or things like that, or something completely different?
Yeah, well, Google Plus is a very unique network in those senses. So you can build connections on Twitter, you can build relationships on Facebook, although Facebook really, what you do is you build a relationship somewhere else and then you kind of secure them on Facebook. But Google Plus really is focused on taking what you do and leveraging that so that you can connect and network, and everything about it is geared that way, even the way that they promote your material. And in fact, I published an article about this, I think it was last week, maybe it was the week before, but it takes the engagement that you have with people, and if it's finding that you're connecting and engaging with people really well, it will actually take that engaging post and put it in front of people that aren't even in your network yet. And then they can start engaging it. So it actually leverages your engagement to expand that. And I don't know of any other network that really does that, aside from just the general aspect you get in people resharing your content. So Google Plus for me has been specifically and very uniquely targeted towards being able to build relationships. And making that as effective as possible. So that's been, I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly right. I mean, you and I've had the opportunity to meet now twice because we're lucky enough to live in the same neck of the woods. And, you know, we showed up together at Bloggers Conference, and you know, we met up a couple nights ago. And I've had more people from Google Plus that I've actively sought out opportunities to meet offline than I have on any other platform, aside from Facebook, which I mostly started out with the in-person connections, and it went to Facebook, not the other way around.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's been the experience with a lot of people. I mean, Facebook has brand pages, but even the brand pages are built so that your engagement declines over time, and you have to actually pay to retain the engagement with people you've already got there. And I don't know really of much they do aside from Facebook ads, and I know that Greg Trujillo is really skilled with Facebook ads, but aside from Facebook ads, I don't really know how that is geared towards making the connections that making connections with people that don't already exist somewhere else.
Right. Yeah.
But at this point, to shout out to everybody who's in the audience, thanks to Eileen Smith for coming by, and she likes your mug, Thomas, just so you know. But also Tim
as well as she should.
Indeed. Tim Longwell is also in the audience, and Carrie Ann Foster. Also, see, Carrie Ann's having an issue viewing the comments, so I posted a link there, Carrie Ann. Hopefully that'll give you access so you can see what others are saying. But I got one question for you here, Thomas, because you said, and I like the way you put it, that Google Plus is your avenue to build relationships.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to try to do is delve a little bit deeper. So for our ever-expanding global audience, what are the kind of actionable things that they should do and can do to try foster relationships? And more importantly, what are the things that you've done? Because, like, how long have you been on Google Plus? Not that long, but you have really... you're on everyone's newsfeed. So what have you done to build all these relationships?
Well, I mean, I myself, I've been on Google Plus for long enough to learn how to use Google Plus. This actual brand page, which is sort of a rebrand in many ways because it's a completely different audience than everything I've ever done before, is...
This is your avenue to build relationships.
Yeah. So
what I do is delve a little bit deeper. So what...
I'm getting
actionable things that they should do and can do to try foster relationships, and more importantly, what?
Okay, sorry. There we go. We had
a malfunction.
Okay, I'm back. I thought you were asking me a question, and I stopped, and then I was trying to figure out where I was. But anyhow, so what are some of the actionable things that I've done with presenting blogphoto.tv over the past really 3 months? In trying to build connections here. First of all, one of the things that I've done is I've looked for where people are connected, not just individual people. How are people already connected? Because here's how just human relationships work, right? If I become friends, well, I'm going to use Carolyn Capern here as an example because lately since Florida BlogCon, we have connected up a couple of times, and because of that, I've met new people. And the reason that I met those new people is because those are people that are already in her circle, and that's how relationships work. If I become friends with somebody, I start getting to know the people that they're friends with. I start getting to know their circle. So if I find people that are already connected with other people, and I build those relationships naturally feed more relationships. So I started by doing that, and what I did, I identified 15 people at the beginning and said, these are the people that I want to initially focus on connecting with, and they went in their own circle, and that circle had notifications on, and so every time they posted anything, I would be notified so that I can be constantly engaging and connecting with the stuff that they're doing, and I would build those connections that way. And then from there, I would begin focusing on some of the stuff that they're actually doing, because a lot of the times these are authorities in the industry, and if I can be able to utilize stuff that's relevant to what I'm doing as actual research material, that allows me to further solidify some of those connections. And by the end of the first month, of those 15 people, I would say that I feel confident that I had begun to build a relationship with maybe 3 of them, where they knew who I was and we were actually engaging on a fairly regular basis. But now most of those people I've connected with, and part of that is because those 3 people that I connected with continued connecting me with these other people they were already networked in with that I was already connecting with because they were in that initial connection block. So you begin to make sure that the relationships and the things that you're doing are working together cohesively, as opposed to simply scattering it across the place. And I think that's a little more effective in terms of sort of the return on that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Interesting. So it all started with a stalker's list of sorts.
Yeah. There you go.
No, I think that's great because it's such a minimalistic approach too, because so many people when they first get on to any social network, but especially this one, they go crazy with adding people. They don't. They tend to just add all over the place. Just say, okay, you look kind of interesting, so I'm going to add you. You look kind of interesting, so I'm going to add you. And they don't take the time to think about who they would actually want to talk to, not just consume content from.
Right.
So it's nicer to take the more strategic and minimalistic approach. I know my friend Greg Trujillo, who's out in the audience saying hi to us. He takes a very minimalistic approach to his circles as well. He still doesn't have more than 100. So
yeah, and I differ from that a little. I mean, I do because I do look for people that are engaging with content similar to mine, and I will add them. I have a circle specifically about people that I kind of watch, and that I don't necessarily engage with straight off. But I'll use something like Circuloscope and find people that are engaging with content similar to mine, or that are engaging with content, particularly content similar to the type of stuff that I deal with, that is being published by people that I'm building relationships with. Because now we're now we're layering this audience thing several times over. But that's really still is focused on connecting with people based off of their engagement, so it's still very targeted. If you simply do this like shotgun approach and try to add everybody, you're going to probably get a lot of people that's following you, but you're going to get very little engagement. And followers, I think, is fairly meaningless if there's no engagement to accompany it.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like the Twitter approach almost. I remember back in the day when most people were starting, it was like follow, and the hope that maybe 50 or 60% will follow you back, and just keep rinsing and repeating. But at the end of the day, like you said, there's no value in it if you're not actually going to be able to send them a private message and get them on a Skype call or something like that, because there's no value in the relationship at all. Whereas you, with your much tightly knit, closer approach and more concise circles, I think it's the way to go anyway. And I've got something similar. I think I only have a couple of hundred people in my circles because I can't pay attention to that many people, and I can't really be interested in that many people, I think, either.
Right. There's a finite amount of attention that anybody has, right? Finite amount of activity that you can do in a given day, especially if you have a job that involves something other than being on social media all the time. So it's definitely important. Carrie Ann had a good comment here about the importance of getting notifications from the people you want to gain traction with, and I wonder if you could speak to how you felt that active notification process helped you too, because I don't know that too many people necessarily employ that strategy of setting up a notification circle, like an inbound notification circle.
Yeah. Sure. So when you build a circle, you can actually go to the settings on that circle, and Google's a little bit confusing on this because you actually open the tab up to get to that particular setting. So you're on that tab, which has the stream of that particular circle, and then in the upper right, there's a little gear icon, and you can click on that, and you can turn notifications on. That means that anytime anybody that is in that circle posts anything to Google+, it's going to show up in your bell. In that
Mr. Jingles.
Mr. Jingles, yes. So putting them into that allows you to know anytime that they post anything. And I don't comment on everything, but I watch for things that I think are relevant, or that I have the ability to add anything to. And if I can add anything to it, then I do. And if there's something there that I can reshare that is relevant to the people that I'm trying to connect with in terms of my blog, I will reshare that. And then when I reshare it, I always try to make sure that I'm adding some sort of value to it, so that I'm not just a stream of links, but that I can utilize what other people are publishing as well to demonstrate my expertise of it, because I'm adding value to it, which not only makes me valuable to those that are now following what is going on in my stream, it also demonstrates that expertise to those people in the industry that I'm building relationships with, which is important because the goal of networking with them is not to try to say, how can I get people to share my stuff and leverage them? It's to say, how do I shift in the thinking to move from a consumer of their content to a colleague in their industry. And when you do that, you suddenly move more into collaborative modes of interaction, and that's where things get really exciting.
Right, yeah, definitely. So we got a couple of audience questions here for you. You remember Leandro Perez stopped by when we first set this up, and he had a question, and we've been saving it for you because we hadn't seen you pop in here yet. So that he says he's here now, and here's his question from earlier. What is for you more important or valuable in Google Plus, followers or page views?
And I love this question, by the way. I love this question because I think it really drives to a central point. To me, let me answer it very simply, first of all, and then I'm going to expand on why that's important. For me, followers and page views, neither of those are the important metric for me. Now, those are helpful metrics if I'm looking at somebody that's, if somebody says that they know a lot of stuff about the industry and are trying to teach, and I look over and they have 50 people that are following them, I'm going to question whether they know really how to build, and build an engaged audience. But by the same token, if I have somebody that has 100,000 people, not peoples, 100,000 people, and they have no engagement on their stream, I'm going to question that as well. So for me, the metric is engagement. I want to know how many people are actually connecting with what I'm doing. And so I'll look at pluses, I'll look at reshares, I'll look at comments, and the way that interacts, and we see that type of stuff. So that is the most important one to me. And the reason I say that's such an incredible question is because I think it reflects sort of this, the difference in some of that mindset that I mentioned earlier. That when we approach social media, so often we approach it as an advertising platform. And when we approach it as an advertising platform, the strategies that we lay out to engage it are very, very different. Because if it's an advertising platform, then our goal is to get as many channels that we can advertise through as possible. We try to push our content out. We're not really focused on connections so much as we are getting whatever we're trying to advertise in front of eyeballs. And so we operate very differently. When it is a networking platform, we're focused less on going wide and more on going deep. And if we focus on going deep, then all of a sudden the metrics that we're focusing on change, the ways that we're going about it change, and the way that we are utilizing and engaging the platform itself changes. When I first was trying to get, this was back with my profile with Hanna, when I was first trying to figure out how to get traction on Google+, I think I was part of like 60 communities, and I had a plugin on my WordPress thing that automatically pushed out my content to be published in each community, over the course of like every 15 or 20 minutes would publish it in a new community whenever I published a new article. And I got one or two communities did I ever get any real engagement from. Now what happened when I changed my thinking, I pulled those all down, and I think I'm, with Blog Photo TV, I think I'm part of four communities I think am I actually a member of, and one of them is a private community. And I get more connection points and engagement from those communities, and I don't publish my content there. I connect with them there, people connect with me, and then I'm getting a ton of engagement on my page, on my profile, or on my Blog Photo TV page. So it's a very different approach. So followers and page views are not my primary metric. I look for engagement, and I look for engagement because I'm looking to do something different than simply get my stuff in front of people.
I think
Although
that's...
the result is that your stuff will end up in front of people. But one thing, as you were talking there, might be interesting to, not just look at the page views and the number of followers, but if you were to kind of maybe find some metric between those that you could use to determine the actual impact that your followers have. Like you could about say 3,000 followers, 3.5 million. So what you could maybe try to do is derive from that, okay, look, these 3,000 followers have given me these amount of views because they're sharing my stuff. Yeah. So from that you could find maybe a metric that might be a little bit more useful or relevant. But I'm sure maybe Circuloscope or one of those great dudes and tools have something like that already built in.
And on Google and on pages, I mean, when you publish a brand page, there's actually you actually have analytics on that page. So on part of that analytics is how is your follower growth, your view count, and then you have an interactions one. So it actually tracks how many actions people are doing on your page. And that's a great one, because if I'm having a ton of followers or views or whatever and having no action on my page, that's a red flag. Those three things need to sort of reflect each other, or questions start being raised.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Hey, Carrie Ann was wondering, with your over 3,000 followers, how do you know who's interesting to follow back?
Mm-hmm.
I would tack onto that, do you use engagement as a metric for that at all?
Mm.
I do, but I don't use engagement specifically in terms of like a measurable, I don't use a tool to say, okay, who are the people that are engaging the most. I look at, in terms of the people that I'm actually having in the streams that I see, because I have some streams that I have where I'll kind of have people that will go into, if they're starting to interact with my stuff, and if they retain acting with my stuff, then they may move into a stream that I know about. But those that are actually in the streams that I'm fairly regularly engaging with are there because I know who they are, and I usually know who they are because we've interacted enough times. And they've connected with what I'm doing. And with my site, I actually have a way that I sort of narrow the focus a lot. And Carrie Ann knows this, I think, because she's actually a moderator in it. But if you're engaging with my stuff, that's fantastic. And then when I pre-promote an article, I have the opportunity where if you plus that post or leave a comment on it, I'll add you to the notification circle so you get notified when that article goes live. Then on the page itself, you can subscribe to my email list. Then on the email list, you're getting free photos, you're getting notifications of the articles that are published. You get a bunch of other goodies, and you get the opportunity to join I have a private Google Plus community that is only accessible to those who are on my insiders list. And people that are in that community, it's a much smaller community, but I tend to know who those people are. And so I tend to put a lot more time connecting with those people, because by the time you get there, you've been connecting with stuff for a little while. And that helps me narrow who I know that I really want to be spending time with.
Makes perfect sense. And Eileen wanted to thank you for the free images that you provide and send to your subscribers, and I absolutely 100% have to second her on that. I've been subscribed for a couple months now, and I love Monday afternoons for the free goodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I know Eileen takes those, and she actually uses those on Instagram. And I haven't been able to share those as much because I'm not on Instagram, but she's done some neat stuff with some of those photos. She actually sent me an email showing me some of the stuff that she was doing, and it was really cool.
Oh yeah, well, they're fantastic photos, and it's imagery is an important piece of blogging, and I'm sure we'll get into that considerably more in depth at a later date. But I suppose now it's time to start wrapping up this little blogging party, and chat about our lessons for the day and our calls to action for our audience. So, well, Rob, why don't we start with you? Okay.
Well, first I want to say, as one of the original three of Blogging Warfare, it's great to have Thomas on the team. And after the first 30 minutes of him broadcasting live to our ever-expanding global audience, I'm sure our ever-expanding global audience will be happy that Thomas is now part of the team, because he is full of, genuinely good stuff. And again, if you haven't been watching him on Google Plus or seeing what he's doing, you really should, start following him and see what he's doing, because he's worth following. Also, just one other thing to quickly mention, our website, our long-promised and much talked about website, is very close to launching now, so soon you'll be able to find us on our new home on the web at bloggingwarfare.com. We'll have weekly articles, we'll have Hangout reviews, and a whole archive there, so you can check out everything we've done in the past. Not only that, we have some super stellar guests lined up, so things are going to get a little bit more interesting around here, so please do hang around, stick around, and I'll catch you in about 2 weeks. My name is Rob from robertryan.ie. Thumbs up, everybody.
All right. And Thomas, you're up next.
Okay, well, I am super excited about being a part of this. I'm looking forward to our upcoming ones. I know we've got some really, really exciting people lined up to be on this coming up. I am Thomas E. Hanna over at blogphoto.tv. If you're not already connected with me, drop me a message. I'd love to get to know you. I'm going to be announcing some stuff this upcoming week. Got a course that's going to be coming up that's going to talk about some of the things that I discussed here. So be looking forward to connecting with you on that. And that's blogphoto. That's blogphoto.tv. And exciting things in the future here at Blogging Warfare. Exciting. Now I'm going to pass this on over to you.
It is exciting indeed, and I joined these guys in being absolutely delighted to have you on the team, and I know Wade is too, even though he couldn't be here today. We couldn't ask for a better co-panelist. I think it is going to be exciting to have the website up and running. I am Carolyn Capern with CT Social, and you folks can find me over on our ct-social.com blog site. We just relaunched ourselves, actually, not more than a couple weeks ago, and we're pretty excited about that. So looking forward to next time. Stay tuned for our next event announcement and our announcement of our big Blogging Warfare site. And we will look forward to seeing everybody again in a couple of weeks. Take care.
Bye-bye all.